So as you can see, brothers and sisters, today, this afternoon, it's not our intention to discuss religion. We're going to forget religion. If we bring up religion, we'll be in an argument. And the best way to keep away from arguments and differences, as I said earlier, put your religion at home, in the closet. Keep it between you and your God. Because if it hasn't done anything more for you than it has, you need to forget it anyway. Whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a nationalist, we all have the same problem. They don't hang you because you're a Baptist, they hang you because you're black. They don't attack me because I'm a Muslim, they attack me because I'm black. They attack all of us for the same reason. All of us catch hell from the same enemy. We're all in the same bag, in the same boat. We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. All of them from the same enemy. The government has failed us. You can't deny that. Anytime you live in the 20th century, 1964, and you walking around here singing, "We shall overcome," the government has failed. This is part of what's wrong with you. You do too much singing. Today it's time to stop singing and start swinging. You can't sing up on freedom, but you can swing up on some freedom. Cassius Clay can sing, but singing didn't help him to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Swinging helped him become the heavyweight. So this government has failed us. The government itself has failed us. And the white liberals who have been posing as our friends have failed us. And once we see that all these other sources to which we've turned have failed, we stop turning to them and turn to ourselves. We need a self-help program, a do-it-yourself philosophy, a do-it-right-now philosophy. It's already too late philosophy. This is what you and I need to get with. And the only way we're going to solve our problem is with a self-help program. Before we can get a self-help program started, we have to have a self-help philosophy. Black nationalism is a self-help philosophy. What's so good about it, you can stay right in the church where you are and still take black nationalism as your philosophy. You can stay in any kind of civic organization that you belong to and still take black nationalism as your philosophy. You can be an atheist and still take black nationalism as your philosophy. This is a philosophy that eliminates the necessity for division and argument. Because if you're black, you should be thinking black. And if you're black and you're not thinking black at this late date, well, I'm sorry for you. Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern. Once you change your thought pattern, you change your attitude. Once you change your attitude, it changes your behavior pattern. And then you go on into some action. As long as you got a sit-down philosophy, you'll have a sit-down thought pattern. And as long as you think that old sit-down thought, you'll be in some kind of sit-down action. They'll have you sitting in everywhere. It's not so good to refer to what you're going to do as a sit-in. That right there castrates you. Right there it brings you down. What goes with it? Think of the image of someone sitting. An old woman can sit. An old man can sit. A chump can sit. A coward can sit. Anything can sit. Well, you and I have been sitting long enough, and it's time today for us to start doing some standing. and some fighting to back that up.
Hi, everyone. We're going to have the Entheo Society of Washington is going to have a talk with me, Cloretta James. How you guys doing? We're going to be talking about Black people and psychedelics. I'm going to start by saying I don't represent all Black people. I represent Cloretta. And I want to tell you about psychedelics in the way that I see them and what they will be in my life, or what they have done for my life. First, a little bit of background. I'm Cloretta James. I'm a public defender working with clients, and right now I have an assignment to mentally ill who are being involuntarily committed in the United States. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and was raised within the Muslim faith, where Elijah Muhammad, under the direction of Minister Louis Farrakhan. I am a child of an illiterate parent, and I say that lightly because I think he's one of the smartest people that I know, and if he had been white, he could have been a president. But he is illiterate by our standards because he doesn't have a formal education. I am the fifth child of my parents' 9 children, and my parents have been married for about 58 years. I am the first person to get a law degree in my family, and I have a niece who followed my lead and went to the same school of mine, because when this happens, when you're born in America to a Black family, it's hard for you to succeed without people to support you. And I've had that support, and that's why I'm here. At the end of this talk, I'm going to have everybody listen to a young woman that is born into this America's racism and prejudice, and how she has risen from it. But now I'm going to talk about some things that might be near and dear to you guys. The war on drugs. So let's look at the case of the war on drugs. For centuries, I have been hearing that there is a war on drugs. But for me, there's no war on drugs. There is people giving drugs to people, medicating them, and doing what they believe is best for a person, I believe that everyone should be able to medicate themselves with what they believe is medicine. And that's why I support psychedelics. What I believe is medicine, what you believe is medicine, is probably medicine. And so I think that that's where I come from when I'm talking about psychedelics. But the war on drugs produced profoundly unequal outcomes, and everyone knows this. Many of my Black brothers and sisters went to prison because of the war on drugs. Many of them are still in prison today, and some of them have not gotten released, as the defense in this country is trying to do for a lot of people. Many Latinos, many brown people, if you will, have been arrested, higher rates of incarceration, and their focus have been a war on drugs, but it's really a war on minorities. At least that's how I feel. This disparity in arrests and incarcerations are seen both in drug possession violations and sales. However, no one goes to explore what it is, how it is that we got to this point. In the late 60s and 70s, Nixon and other men of power specifically target Black communities. And you know, when I think of this time period, I think of the Black Panthers. I had family members that was a part of the Black Panthers, and they were trying to promote self-love, period. And the people who wanted to keep the America as it was, segregated and beneficial to Caucasians only, decided that the Black Panthers were a terrorist group. Yet they allowed the KKK to damage the Black community in a manner that I can't even begin to discuss. And tore down an organization that was bringing free lunch to children, was talking about Black pride and you doing well in your studies so that you could be the best person that you could be. Yet they were targeted like the Black communities are targeted with the drug, with calling things drug, calling behavior unlawful, and ruining a community because of it. Nixon campaign in the White House had enemies, and I think the enemies were Black people first. Many of Black individuals came back from war addicted to heroin and brought it to their communities. And the cocaine trade just bloomed under the Nixon administration, under the Carter administration, under the Reagan administration, and under the Clinton administration. Yet we had a war on drugs during all of those times. But what was really happening is that we were trying to control a people, and they controlled them by flying the drugs in, giving it to the community, giving them big paycheck, giving the people big paychecks that could spread it to the community, knowing that this community was poor, this community did not have a lot of hope, and made it as if the drugs was going to give them hope. And many people got addicted during that time. But the answer was, pull your bootstraps up, get yourself together. You need to either be incarcerated for using or selling, or you need to just stop, say no to drugs. Yet when we have an opiate epidemic in the white community is the most of the victims of the drug, we now have treatment programs. We now have drug court. We now have places in which we can divert people from use to that, but I'm diverting. This war on drugs was that, and we know how it disproportionately affected our community. But just how bad was it? Some of the statistics that I list as 2016, people of color made up 67% of incarcerated communities, despite only being 37% of the population. I see this in my practice every day, still. I see many people of color being turned down from drug court. I see many people of color being cluckers, barely having a nanogram of drugs, but being incarcerated for months, waiting for their trials, only for it to get dismissed 5 minutes before they were about to go to trial. But they have lost their jobs, they lost their place in the community, no homes, and the consequential effects of them being arrested is just detrimental to the community and the family. So that war on drugs is, you know, I wanna tell everybody about a series, and it's called Snowflake. And they talked about who brought crack, how did crack get in our communities? And it'll show, it is really a non-fictional truth of what actually happened during the 70s and 80s when drugs was being fed into our community. I will invite everyone to listen to look at the series Snowflake, and it may give you some insight into this. But that racism that was prevalent in that community, prevalent in America, I'm sorry, during the time of fighting drugs, is why we are here. But really, we're really here because the country wanted to control their slaves. That's why we're really here. Why are we really here? We're really here because no one can measure the pain and the tragedy of being a slave and then being released to a community that didn't want you to be a part of the community. I raised this issue because of the post-traumatic slave syndrome that is eroding our community. Because see, when slaves were released into the community and had to be dealt with by the entire community, everyone was saying, not in my backyard. I won't have those slaves in my backyard. And so after being in the society and showing people that we bleed and we love and we feel like everyone else, that's when the war on drugs started. So when we bring up the post-traumatic slave syndrome and talk about the conditions that exist when a population experiences multi-generational trauma, we come to this institutionalized racism that we share today. And a part of that is telling us how to medicate ourselves. And the first part of medicating ourselves is trying to get over the trauma of the racism. We are sick with the issue of race. This country is sick with the issue of race, but I'm sick with the issue of race too. Why is it that we always have to label ourselves as Black or white, Caucasian or Asian, Filipino, or the like? Why do we have to do that? Why do we do it? Everybody experiences hard times. Why do we have to label each person and say that these type of people have to be labeled? Why do we have to label these drugs to say, only these drugs can be psychotropic drugs, only these drugs can be accepted, only these drugs can be for the masses, only these drugs can be prescribed. You only can prescribe this amount. You only can give this thing. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're controlling. Why do we get to control? Why does the government get to control what we will take to make our demons go away? Why does the government do that? You know, I've listed a lot of points from an interview with Dr. Joy, and you can go through those and look at them. But the one thing that I want you to get from this is that let's be honest about what we're doing. Let's be honest about what we're saying about people. Let's be honest about what drugs really are. Because right now, with our Schedule 1, 2 drugs. We are just trying to control behavior, period. And as long as we hide that and say we're not doing that, we're making sure people are safe, we will turn our backs on psychedelics, those drugs that can help people in their own sense to feel a comfortableness with the drug that they use to make them more comfortable with their life and get through their life, because that's what we all trying to do. We're just trying to get through our lives. And so when I look at these points that I'm making, and I see that these young people are raised in institutions and communities that have had so much poverty, grew up in the poverty, and are dealing with so much, born into it and trying to rise from it, I get sad sometimes. I get sad sometimes about America, because we're hiding the real America. We're really not showing what we really do to people that we don't approve of. We're not really showing how corporate America controls what drug is going to come in. Why is Oxycontin not a drug that, why is Oxycontin so liberally given in the 70s and 80s and the 90s, and now it's just becoming that drug that we shouldn't use, when they were feeding it to us like it was the only drug that can get rid of pain? I don't know. But what I do know, what this psychedelic movement is a chance for us to get to a place to where we're controlling our lives. Now we must move to addiction in the Black communities. Our government deliberately created addiction in the Black communities. Take a look at Snowflake. It's like it's a pretty good series that talks about it, but it'll give you a lot to think about. The war in Nicaragua and how we financed that war, and how we finance, and how we decide what community can handle it or what community will make the most money from. So they put it in the African-American community where people have troubles because they're poor. And they have troubles because they're looking at these televisions telling them what they should get. They should have a Lamborghini, they should have wealth, yet they're sitting at home without wealth, without education, have the worst teachers in school, have the worst administrators. I remember an administrator told me one time when I was in high school, I had just graduated, and I was pretty happy that I graduated because I was kind of a fuck up, excuse my language. So I graduated, and he said, "Hey, how you doing? You graduated, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, I graduated." I was all happy. He said, "What are you gonna do now? Hang out?" Why? Why would he say that to me? And when I was a 16-year-old and I'm pregnant and I'm in the school, and they say, "We ought to take you out of this school. I know you're doing well. You can't go to the school. You got to go to the school that we send you to, because we can't see our children. Our children can't see people pregnant." And really? Really? And they sent me to a school to where there's only one teacher and it's 12 students, and we all learning the same thing. We got a 12-year-old in the class, and we got a 20-year-old in the class, and all ages in between, but it's only 12 of us. And never did we get past addition. And I was in the 10th grade. And then when I get back to school, and I go back to my original high school, they tell me I'm not going to graduate on time because they made me leave the school. So when a community is already feeling the grunt, the pain of being behind, they offer it a drug that takes your mind off all of that. That's why we're addicted in the Black communities. We're addicted because we're poor. And that's why Oxycontin run rampant in the white community, because it targeted the white poor as well. Why are Black people in the community that psychedelics were drugs and not medicine? Why is that? I ask myself that all the time. So they planting cocaine in our community, but we can't have psychedelics as medicine. Something that may very well free your mind from all the pressure, rather than just make you addicted and have you repeatedly run for the drug all night. And that's your only vice. I have a problem with drugs, and I have a problem with medicine, because I think both of them are drugs. And I understand that drugs can help, but I also understand that drugs can hurt. But why is it that they get to pick the drugs and they get to say whether they help or hurt, not us? Why is that? Why don't we get to say? Why don't we get to tell them what makes our ailment go away? What culture are we making for everyone? When it comes to the biases of psychedelics, it's just them saying, only what I pick, do what I say, be who I want you to be, step back, let me be in control. Are Black psychedelic entrepreneurs and influencers like Mike Tyson and Will Smith an actual realistic representation of Black America? Do I represent Black America? Is Black America fluid? Is Black America more than one thing? When you call us the Blacks, can we call you the whites? What is it about this field that we have to be something else? Or we have to show you something else other than ourselves for you to hear that we are Black Americans and we are trying to live just like you? What type of Black person are we looking for all the time? What type of Black person is accepted? Is it like the drugs? Do we accept the psychedelics? Nope. But we accept the Oxycontin? Really? Do we accept mushrooms? Marijuana? What do we actually accept? We accept that thing in which the traditional powers have already say is acceptable. So what corporate America thinks is acceptable is what's acceptable. Not the new corporate America, you know, because that's Mike Tyson and Will Smith. They might be new to corporate America. Talking about the old corporate America like Pfizer. What do they accept? And we're going to have to change that. How do we do that? How do we do that? I believe we change this by changing who we listen to, by changing who we talk about, by changing who we are. And so I want you guys to listen to this sister. And, you know, initially I was going to not include her in my talk, and I was going to make this a lot longer talk with Cloretta. But I had to give her a platform because I believe that what she's saying is exactly so dead point on. We were born into it and we are rising from it, guys. And she is too. So Leo, I ask that you play the Treneti Brown piece at this time. Is everyone hearing the sound on the video? Is there any sound on the video?
I don't hear anything.
Oh, okay.
Ways.
Sorry. 1 second.
Thanks, Leo.
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute myself 1 second. Sorry.
At the way conscious, it's kind of hard. And I know it's hard for a lot of people right now. The amount of different emotions that I feel when I just look at the way consciousness is playing itself out on this platform, and when I see what's happening at the protests, and when I see how people are responding to what's happening. Hello, one viewer there. When I see that, it all hurts. It all hurts my heart. A lot of what I'm seeing, and I wanted to come in here and just be a voice for some things that I don't think that people are paying attention to, that is a part of what's happening. And the main thing is, like, people grieve in a lot of different ways. And if you have not been a part of, in any way in your life, understanding the experience of oppression in this country, then you don't really have the capacity to understand the compounded nature of pain that is dwelling in a lot of people right now. And probably also are not aware of the depth of the history of this country and how long this grief has been carried. Really, a lot of people who are either, I'll say, racially ignorant, misinformed about privilege, or racist or blind, don't really actually know the history of this country. They don't want to know, because if you actually do know what this country was founded upon, I don't really understand how you could not feel compassion and not have also seen the inevitability of it coming to this point where people are standing up for themselves and also grieving in a lot of different ways. The African American community hasn't ever gotten a chance to grieve. We've never had that. It was like slavery, and then, like, okay, try to survive in a world that doesn't really want you there. Try to survive in a land that isn't yours, that doesn't really want you there. And that's been what's been going on. And it's just been this constant hustle and perseverance that we've been on this journey for generations of just trying to catch up in a race that was designed for that to be very difficult and hardly possible at all. And there's really, really strong and spiritually grounded ones of us that have done that work to get to a level of feeling like semi-stable, but the pain is still there because every day you never get a chance to really take a break. You can't stop. You have to keep going. And hi, cousin. My cousin and one of my teachers from high school are watching. This is nice. I know that they understand because we all experienced it. And a lot of people who are making statements right now about what's happening don't understand this. You haven't experienced anything like this. And so you should just listen and you should just be compassionate. Especially the ones that are making statements that call themselves spiritual. And I'm seeing like a lot of people that like call themselves unity consciousness, were like front lines for the Native American people with the pipeline thing and like all of this stuff, and say you're here for the shift, you say you're here for the Great Awakening. But when the awakening is actually starting and the foundation of the lie, that the country of a lie that you exist in is being shaken up, and so that it can purge all of the shadow, all of the darkness, you want to disregard that. You want to disregard us. You want, like, you have me as a friend on your page, but you hating on my people. I don't understand. Like, you don't want to, it feels like people, they say they want to see the world change, and they say they want to see the shadows lift, and a bunch of these people say, oh, like, you have to look at the shadow in order to be able to like heal it and give love to it and then become a like enlightened whatever. And then when the collective shadow is showing itself right now and all the dimensions of grief are playing out, there's peaceful grievance of the protesters who are just there in solidarity and being there peacefully. There's the rioters who are angry and they're upset because that's how they're grieving. That's where their heart is right now. They're burning. And so they're showing that, and it's authentic. It's where they're at. It's okay. I wouldn't do that. I'm not there, but I have been angry like that before. Me in a different time in my life would be out there like that. That's not where I'm at now. And I still have compassion for people who are out there like that. And then you have people who are there to loot and be destructive. And even if they don't actually care about the mission, they don't care about Black Lives Matter, then they're just opportunists that are doing that, or maybe they're doing it from a space of vengeance or whatever it is. It's all a direct result of the brokenness of this system. The brokenness of this system is what created this whole entire example of grief that is playing out. And so there is violence in the system. There is violence coming at people right now who are peaceful. Peaceful protesters are getting attacked right now. At the same time, some cops are turning in their badges. Like, this is a fractal reality, and there are different people experiencing it and processing it at all different levels. And it is all necessary. It's all a part of the purge. And you can't tell people how to grieve. You can hold space and you can gently encourage things to move in a positive direction. But that's it, because this had to happen. Our system is completely fucked. This country shouldn't exist. The way that this country was built is like an abomination to God. It shouldn't exist. Yet we are here. And so in order to be here, the damages that have been done that created this place that we live in called the United States have to be addressed. And like, I'm sorry for those of you who your families came here several generations after this country was founded and you didn't know what you were getting yourself into. Your family did not know what they were getting themselves into. But guess what? You inherited this. You're here now. And so this is something for us to all look at and work through together. And I just want to specifically call out a lot of people in the quote unquote new age spiritual community, whatever you want to call that, people who think that they need to add a lot of extra context around believing and holding God in their heart. That's what I will say. Y'all are being really out of your heart right now. A lot of you are being really naive and lack compassion. And whatever you believe in, if you don't have compassion at the center of it, you should probably reconsider your belief structure. Because I'm seeing people say things that are passively racist and like just like, oh, like I read a post the other night. I'm unfriending and blocking people because it's like just looking at what's really happening is like hard enough, and to like have stuff come across my feed that is just like naive, like, and rude and racist and just disregarding people, like I just don't have space for that. But this person was trying to say that like basically trying to like chalk everything up that happened with George Floyd and the protests to conspiracy, and saying that people responding in violence and through protesting is third dimension, and that there's like the 5D way to do things and doesn't involve that, and it involves just harmony consciousness. And what I gotta say to that is like, that is actually like racist. You're saying that people expressing their grief in the way that they need to express their grief right now, based on the life experience that they're coming out of right now, based on the amount of opportunity that's been given to them in their lifetime, you're saying that because they are making a stand for themselves and showing up and like in solidarity, it's not all violence. You're saying that because they're showing up and saying, hey, stop this madness, that they are in the like a lower dimension than you. No, I don't think so. Okay, that is not what this is. That is very high vibrational. What is happening is very high vibrational. Those of you who think like this and you're sitting here and you're trying to put down what's happening and saying that it's low vibe, like, but you go and you do medicine journeys and you do mushrooms and ayahuasca, and if you go deep enough in any of those medicines, it takes you to a deep, dark shadow space where you work through what's there. So why are you surprised that what's happening here in the real medicine journey, like not the like our simulation dojo of sitting with the plant spirit, but the real medicine journey right here called planet Earth, right here and now, why are you surprised that the shadow is coming up for you to look at? Why are you surprised that it's purging actually physically? Isn't that what you've been praying for? Isn't that what you've been singing with your medicine drum for? Isn't that why you've been sitting in all of those medicine circles and doing all of that work? What were you doing that for? Just so you could say that you were one of the cool kids just because it seemed like it was trending? What are you doing? And if those are your reasons, then guess what? You still have a long way to go. You have not integrated anything. You have not heard the plants. You have not integrated the wisdom. You've just been like a tourist. You've been a plant medicine tourist, and you've been a trending jump on the bandwagon of whatever person, and you're not with God, and you need to get right in your heart, because God is with compassion, and God is with love, and God is with free will, and justice is always served with God, and this a part of that service coming through. It's not fun. It's very ugly. It hurts. I have been crying like 2 to 3 times a day, like, and still trying to show up here and be present for the community and show up in my community, delivering plant medicine to the people. That's hard. Things that I processed through that really fundamentally affected me, because I grew up in the ghetto of Chicago and I experienced a lot of different things, and I have PTSD from that. Things that I had to process through that I thought I was done processing through are back. And a lot of us are experiencing that, this deep, like, heart vomit of like everything that's coming through, and it's all a part of it. So if you don't know what you're talking about and you have not ever experienced it, at least just listen, and at least just shut up long enough to listen, and don't make judgments and statements about what's happening if you don't really understand what's happening. Listen for once. You see, I got some comments. Thank you guys for tuning in to me, with me, and just being here. Yeah, Andrea, people are scared, and they're scared of the hard work. Everyone was just hoping that you could pray it away. Everyone was hoping that you could just be in your little like Burning Man bubble or whatever, and like that would be enough. And that's not enough. It's not. It never has been. I left that community years ago, around my Saturn return beginning, for many reasons. And one of it was that I found there was a lack of compassion when it came to real emotions coming up. I found that people were quick to abandon because, oh, that's not high vibe. Like all of this like narcissistic behavior that exists in the quote unquote new agey spiritual community. It's like, you say you want to be in like the space of love. You say you want to understand that. You say you are that. Now is the opportunity for you to really call up into that in a way that is really like seeing the world. It's time to land, to be on the earth and be with what is here. And that's the only way that the healing is going to happen. Like in any medicine journey, there's like the climb, and then there's like the like big like shadow death, like space of purging. And then on the other side is when we get to see each other and come step into this radical compassion and start to build and design the new earth. But we can't build and design the new earth with toxicity in it still, undertones even of it still. We can't do that. We can't build it on top of that. It won't work. It'll just be another illusion. It'll be more of the old, designed and facaded as something else. Just like how the festival community, festival culture, it tries to market itself as being like fully transformational and like all about like love and peace and balance and all of these things, but then there's still patriarchal systems of hierarchy and of like artists and things like that being taken advantage of that happen inside of that system. And no one talks about that. Everyone just talks about the rainbows and butterflies and like, oh, I had such a good time, when there are artists who are being taken advantage of and not paid enough for their work, or not even being mentioned or given an opportunity to have that be something that they grow from. And then there are some artists who are like completely profiting from it and not contributing as much. And so there's this imbalance, and then there's like these secretive promoters, and I don't even know what they do with the money. And so there's an imbalance in that culture and community that's exactly like the imbalances that play out in our day-to-day society, but nobody wants to look at that because they've already painted this picture of like dreamland escape perfection on top of it. And so to look at it is to have to admit that it's all a lie. And that's exactly what's happening in American culture as a whole. In order for us to really heal what this is, and the fact that this is all fucked and falling apart, people have to be able to admit to themselves that we've been living inside of a lie. We've all been living inside of a big lie that does not benefit anyone. Because I mean, I'm under the feeling and belief that if the structure of community that we live in doesn't benefit some, it doesn't benefit any of us, because that we're one whole organism. And so the fact that there's like homeless people that are sick and dying over there, that means a part of me is sick and dying over there. Like the fact that there like are people that are in low income communities that are not getting access to proper education, proper meals, or even feeling like they can exist without being scared. Like that means that I'm feeling like that. And like all of the other things, it's like it's connected. And anyone running a country should be thinking about that and thinking about the well-being of all of the people as a reflection of their own well-being. And that's not the system that we have. And until we have that type of a system, we don't have one that works. Okay. And there's a lot of like people who just don't want to look at that right now. And so that's why I'm creating this video to call that out. And I'm someone like, I've been on a constant climb. And I just want to tell y'all a story that like this is stuck with me in my heart. It's something that like I won't, until I see things shift where it came from, I will not be okay. Like I will not be okay. Like that's my life's mission. Like the minute that I got, and it's complex. it's completely complex. Like the minute I got out of high school and started college, I remember being on the bus one day. Like this was like probably second semester college. I was back in Chicago going to Columbia, and even just going from existing there as a child, going through everything that I did, pushing myself to get to college, I had already like elevated out into a different demographic of experience in the city. So I wasn't in the hood anymore, and I wasn't like around my like elementary school friends, and I wasn't like in that direct danger. It was still around me, but it wasn't like directly on me anymore. But I never forgot. And I remember sitting on the bus, going to school. I was either on the bus or the train, and I just started crying because I was just praying. I was like, what can I, like, when do I get to give back? Like, what can I do? Like, I need to, like, even just getting to college felt like such a freaking accomplishment that, like, I was like, what can I do? When do I get to give back? When do I get to go and help the people that are still there? Now, if you tell me that that's not an issue, like, you are blind. Like, how many of you guys felt like that when you went to college? Like you just like fucking left a war zone and you need to like hurry up and figure out a way to get home and bring resources. You didn't feel like that. You're probably just like, woo, when's the next party? Like, that's the stuff that we're dealing with. Y'all need to understand what we are dealing with. Like, I still haven't been able to go back and give the way that I want to be able to give. And I work my ass off every day because I know that the amount of resources that I need to be able to do what I want to do for my community are like immense. And I like want people to be there with me, but it's just like crazy right now. And like, I know that it will happen because it's like anything that I've set my mind to, I'm driven and I do that. I get it done. And I know I will get my chance to go and speak to the children and to set up new systems and provide new different educational resources so that they have access to meditation and they have access to understanding finance and not inheriting their parents' financial karma like I did. Like that's a mindset that you inherit. And then people are like, oh, you have equal opportunity, you can just work hard and like become successful just like everybody else. And it's like, no, it's like 3 or 4, 5 or 10 times hard. And yeah, there's anomalies. There's people who do like break through, but they work 10 times harder than the next person with lighter skin who did that, if they're actually from that demographic, you know? Or you make yourself a caricature, and then like the system will lift you up because you are reinforcing the structure of what they want people to believe about Black people. So there's people like that they get lifted up because they are okay with wearing the monkey suit and being the archetype of what everybody thinks about us. But that's not how we are. Like most of the stuff that you see on TV about Black people don't even actually act like that. It's really annoying. And so we are just as unique and diverse and different in our actions as all people of all different races, but people don't see us like that. And there are some people that do, but the fact that there are many, many people who are blind to what this country was built upon and the way that it's still affecting a great majority of people is a problem. And in order for us to move into a new paradigm of existence, that problem needs to be addressed first. So I'm sorry if this getting worked through is interrupting your day or interrupting your ability to tell people about your Reiki rainbows on social media and about the aliens that you talk to and like all of that. I'm sorry if it's interrupting your like that's validation of posting pictures of your butt or like whatever and filtering your face and making pictures. I'm sorry if we're interrupting that, your goddess camp or whatever it is that you're trying to do for some real stuff that needs to be addressed. It needs to happen. So you're just gonna have to put all that on pause until we are in a better place.
Well said, baby girl. Well said. I wanted you guys to hear her because the main theme that I get from this is that we need free will. We need to be able to actually live the American dream that we have been fed. We have fed an American dream, but it plays out as a myth. It plays out untrue. And until we have the freedom to pick our drug of choice, medicine of choice, call it what you like, we will be in the conundrum of trying to rise up and be a better people always, instead of enjoying the people that we are. I want to say that the one thing that I know that I always say, and I just want to kind of leave you guys with this, that Martin Luther King opened the doors for me to enter, and I'm so grateful for that. But I will enter as my authentic self. I will speak like Cloretta. I will act like Cloretta, and you will know Cloretta came into the room, because the only person I am good at being is Cloretta. So that's who I will be always in this America. Thank you guys for listening, and I will open it up for discussion if anyone wants to say anything. And everyone, you have the floor. Anyone? Anyone want to talk about the experience with psychedelics?
Sorry, one question. Susan in the chat says, thank you, Cloretta. I had encouraged people to put questions in the chat, but they're also welcome to speak out. I know, Yasmeen, you joined about halfway through. And so one thing that stood out to me was I'll just share real quick, but during the presentation for the PowerPoint, there was a portion that talked about white people and where do we when we ask white people, this was basically the perspective of many Europeans, Americans have a very hard time even hearing a person of color express their experiences. The prevailing psychological mechanism is the idea, I've not experienced it, so it cannot be happening for you. And I don't want to get too emotional, but there was a point when Treneti was speaking and she was talking about how she would, like with the Black Lives Matter riots, that she was getting really triggered and it was bringing up a lot of issues for her. And it's like, I don't think white people, that's just my observation, I don't think white people on average, of course, I'm speaking in generalizations here, has the concept of like, why would this be like a re-stimulation of trauma? And understanding that there's like the PTSD she talked about in terms of that historical trauma piece. So I was just wondering if you could touch on that for a moment, in terms of how tiring it gets to have those conversations with white people that that kind of, I think, can be exhausting for Black people that are trying to do healing. But then also the idea of, you have talked with me before about the necessity for Black people to have Black therapists and the lack of Black therapists out there. So now I know all these therapists that are going forward with psychedelic training. So you're right, because they're getting prepared to help Black people with psychedelic trainings. And that presents concerns. Do you know what I mean? Because now you're holding space for people, and maybe you haven't, looked at yourself around your own racial bias or ignorance or racism. Those are just my questions. Yeah.
Well, I always tell you that I can't speak for all Black people, but Black people have been dealt with in America as a collective. And I think it's because even in the beginning, when we first arrived here, we arrived as a group. And so we came as a group, we live as a group, we looked at as a group, because when we were introduced to America as slaves, we were a group. And so we still have that group label, if you will. And what happens when you're an individual like I am, and you're trying to seek things for maybe family goals? I have a lot of children. I have 4 children. I have 7 grandchildren. I I have a lot of cousins and uncles and aunts. It's a lot of us. And so the first people that I want to pick up and have a better life is the ones that I live with and I sit with and I eat with. And so when your income grows and you want to enjoy your income with your family, you can't think about the larger goal of helping the community out of its poverty. And so, but you're still thinking about that while you're trying to think about your family's small goals, if you will. And so it pains me at times to start thinking about my community because I know that I got 10 family members that are suffering that same fate that I need to call today to tell them about how they can pull themselves up. So it's interesting how we get into this place to where we can't rest. And to me, this is why a lot of African Americans die of heart attacks and diabetes and things, because it's hard to start thinking about what you're eating when you're thinking about what your people are not eating, or what is happening around you and how everybody is being treated. I mean, and I'm not saying this to say that we are in so much pain, we need help out of our pain. I'm saying this because we are fighting a fight that we've been fighting for hundreds of years, and we still have to fight it the same way we fought it 100 years ago. That doesn't make sense. Why are we doing the same thing over and over again and not getting any different results? Because we are acting insane doing the same thing over and over again without any results. And so I work as a public defender. That's when I do my community work. And I work in my family and I do my family work after. And I am mindful of the Trinities out there that do their work in the community before they get families. And that's what I'm trying to promote in my community for our young people, like they're doing, walking and they're marching and they're coming out and they're saying, hey, I have respect for myself. I want you to see it, And so thanks for this platform, Leo. I appreciate it.
I had a couple other questions here. Hold on. I think we are grouped because it is easy to dismiss a person's perspective if it is not collectively accepted. This is from Jibril. If white Americans were to see us as individuals, then they will have to question their history and their actions. So
I see what you mean. If you have to question that you stopped that little girl from going to school, that one little girl that was just trying to get her education in the 60s, and you spat on her and you made her doors close and you did all that, you'd have to look at her. You wouldn't have to look at you would be looking at just her. You wouldn't be looking at, well, you saw the Black Panthers, how they had those guns and doing that stuff. You saw the people looting out there and stuff. No, you'd have to look at little girl spat on, and it's harder to look at that. I agree with you, Bilal. I agree.
And then the other one was, Cloretta, your story of being pregnant at 16 was so touching. Did the school and or the administration try to encourage termination of the pregnancy or adoption? If so, how would you have reacted to that? Now, that doesn't really have to do with psychedelics. That's more your story.
It's okay. I never was asked. I never got education. Nobody ever said this child should be adopted. Nobody ever presented any other avenue for me other than keep the child. It's in your stomach. You can't go to school here because we see it. We do not want to see girls pregnant in our school because we don't want all our girls to get pregnant. as if that's what made you pregnant, seeing it.
And we have another question here, is asking about your health benefits, if you've benefited at all from psychedelics, and how you think it might relate to people. Like they're asking about the connection with Mike Tyson and LeBron James and some of these more famous like Will Smith. You had mentioned something about it not being that realistic in terms of Black people that you're working with. They don't have access to ayahuasca journeys.
No, a lot of the Black people that I talk to every day don't have access to it because it costs money. And and a lot of Black people don't use money for drugs, period. And whether you call it drugs or medicine, they call it the same thing. Some Black people don't even want to take their high blood pressure medication because they believe that they're putting something in the drugs. I mean, I don't have any experiences with ayahuasca as I wanted to, and I believe I will in the future, but I haven't as of yet. I haven't gone down that journey, but I think that I will. I just haven't gotten my blessings from the use, but I have heard that a lot of people that have gotten blessings from the psychedelics, and I promote choice. I promote choice. I don't believe that we should be calling cocaine and methamphetamine and psychedelics and all of these different names for these drugs, and not allowing people to make their own choices about what they can use that can help them, because psychotropic drugs are really harsh. And so some of the things that I mentioned could be really harsh, but in lower levels may very well help a person that's going through a crisis. I want us to be open-minded about this. I want us to give free choice, free will. Unfortunately, America, we say we are free. We say that we are for the individual to have rights, to be the person that they want to be, but we don't really practice that. That's one of the reasons I wanted to hear the Brown piece, because she talks about that so vividly, and it touched me of how she talks about that. I think that healing comes from within, and you get to choose what it is that's going to heal you.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if the CIA is planning these drugs to kill Black people, and then their plan is to lock up all these Black men and destroy the Black family. What if the idea of teaching Black people that all drugs are bad and keeping them away from psychedelics by creating splits and schisms between the anti-war community in the 70s and just whatever the anti-drug propaganda from the Reagan administration years. Just wondering what your thoughts are on
Well, Leo. Yeah. Leo, I was a part of the Nation of Islam as a child, and the Nation of Islam promoted no drug use, period. No alcohol, no drug use or anything like that.
Right.
Elijah Muhammad passed and Farrakhan started the Fruits of Islam, and Warp Deen Muhammad had the Nation of Islam. What happened is the Nation of Islam had started allowing people to drink again, because Warp Deen Muhammad had gotten taught that he should open the Nation of Islam to other things, whereas the message was keep your body, your mind pure. And that's why Farrakhan separated from him. And so there's some that say the Nation of Islam got infiltrated during its time of the Hoover administration infiltrating and coming into the organization and trying to break up these organizations to promote blackness or Black power. And so it's interesting to note that when that happened, the Nation of Islam was no longer on the radar, They no longer was being sought out by the Hoover Commission or any commission after that. They no longer was people asking Black people to join and things like that. They were trying to open it up to everyone and make it a nation of, I don't know what. I mean, I guess I didn't study under that, but it was about having Black power when it was Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad. It wasn't about being inclusive. And so when Warp D. Muhammad took over, he made it about being inclusive or exclusive, because the powers that be was telling him, you are excluding Caucasians. You are being prejudiced. When the golf club didn't let no Black people in, they not being exclusive. They not being prejudiced. You know, so you have this double standard that they're living by and asking us to live by a standard that they are not even living by themselves.
Awesome. I know that we're getting to the end. Was there anything else? Because Yasmeen, I don't know if you want to speak about your experience, but I feel like you're the other end of the coin, but you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling connected right now. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I've had a long experience with plant medicine, and I have a lot of experience with ITA, going to the hospital. Even now, I just finished a stint of being in the hospital for almost 2 months, and they were throwing all of these type of drugs at me, and I wasn't responding. It's like I needed some plant medicine to help me. And as far as people, I deal with racism all the time, like all the time. And you would think in 2021 we would be a little bit wiser and more sensitive to our needs, but no, we're not. And for me, it's disheartening because, like, I'll say something as a medium, like, okay, I'm channeling so and so, and we're doing the same thing, and then they dismiss me as being crazy, or okay, she's not fully there, when really, SC, I'm a soul connector. You know, I connect to space. And I really like watching that video, because she called people out, and that's what I've been doing on my Facebook. I've been calling people out. I said white privilege is a thing of the past. We need to make that a thing of the past, and we need unity. I even pulled that card today, and it's the 5th, and so we need unity. Show you, because together we could do things better than we could alone. But now I feel like they have us isolated still, and it's another form of slavery. You know, it really is. There's 95 slaves going on, people working jobs that they don't like, people forced to do things that they don't want to do. I, for one, used to self-medicate because I'm a survivor of human trafficking as well, so I have a lot of PTSD. I would self-medicate, and you know, it's hard. It's hard, but we have to keep telling the truth and living in our truth, walking in our truth. No matter how people judge my story, they judge me. Oh, she's a prostitute. Oh, she was a drug addict. Yes, I was all of those things, but guess what else I was? I'm a mother. I'm a healer. I'm a shaman. I'm a medium. I'm so much more than what this world is made of. You know, and psychedelics with Black people, it's different. It really is different. I haven't done psilocybin, but I've done like salvia before, and of course I'm a big advocate for weed. I'm having to stop smoking weed to help clear my aura, but I don't like how they're doing it. They're still doing it. They're still trying to keep us as a slave, you know, in this system that is broken. And how she said, like, I was homeless too. I was homeless for years. I just got on the Section 8 list, you know, and I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. And it's like my heart too goes out because I'm an empath. You know, I feel other people's emotions, and we're not okay. We're not. And what was her name? Chernobyl? What's the girl's name?
Treneti.
Treneti. Trinity, yeah. Like I wish people would sit down and watch my videos and what I say, because my what's coming from me is straight coming from the divine, you know. That's who I speak from. And I'm telling the truth when I say that they're out here, they're still doing it. They're selling women, selling children for sex, you know, doing all these things that are in the dark that are coming to light now. And people are still trying to sugarcoat shit. But we're sugarcoating, no, we're soul connecting. We're rising up and we're connecting as women, because you can't tell me that Black women are the most powerful force on the earth. Like, I'm just saying, like, we've been through so much and we continue to go through so much. And I just really, really want to get a chance to show the world like how much better we could work together if we practice forgiveness. I pulled that card today too, forgiving people for what they've done to us for centuries, and you know, moving forward and not being the victim anymore. Like I'm not the victim anymore. I'm not the judge anymore. I'm not that parasite in my brain anymore telling me that I'm not good enough. I'm not those things, and I'm not crazy. That's why when they say, "Oh yeah," oh people hear, "Oh yeah, she's bipolar schizophrenia. Oh, she just has mental health issues." We all have mental health issues. My heart, like we all have mental health issues. Some people just don't know what it's called, or some of it's intensified because they're in a different space. Like I would have probably had less encounters of the in the hospital if I wasn't homeless while I was going through mental illness, you know. But they just, you know, put you in this little box, and it's like I'm trying to get out of the box of all the psychological locks and the mind control that they use and all this stuff that's going on nowadays. It's just too much. We just need more people like you and me to stand up and tell the truth, whether or not people like it or not, whether or not it makes people uncomfortable or not. Because right now, it took me a while, but I'm fine standing in my truth. I have no problem explaining that I was human trafficked. You know, I have no problems explaining that I did drugs to self-medicate, sexual abuse at a young age, and, you know, everything that I went through. I don't have a problem doing that anymore. I just wish I get that platform and that opportunity to do so.
December 7th, Yasmeen is going to be
And I will be here
speaking at the fundraiser for statewide legal access to psilocybin. Because the internet is a little spotty, I'm going to end the event for tonight. But is there anything else anyone wants to ask? Because I feel like hearing from
I can tell them that on December they're going to have a fundraiser for psychedelics and promoting psychedelics, and Yasmeen is going to be a speaker there. It's $50 a ticket for a salmon dinner, right? And it should be a fun time. And so everybody try to get your ticket to the fundraiser. She's put it in the everyone in the chat for everyone to see. I'll send it to our family chat as well, guys, so you can see what we're talking about. Jabril, did you want to say something?
Jabril, that's my cousin's name. Oh, should I unmute myself? I should mute myself. Uh-oh.
Or maybe he's off the line because he had put something in the chat. He says no. Okay. And so, guys, I think we reached our time limit. And I thank everyone for coming. Thank you so much for listening. And try to look at the series Snowflake. It's about the CIA infiltrating and bringing drugs to our community.